I hear the dogs before I see them. They're doing some training exercises and they've located a gun lying in some tall grass, so they begin a succession of loud barks to alert their handler. There are two canines, a beautiful chocolate lab with a very square face, and a dark black lab with shiny fur. The conservation officer gives a few commands and both dogs stand alert, ready for their next mission. The black lab, named Cruz, gets some instructions and immediately begins sniffing the back of a nearby truck. He moves back and forth rapidly from one side of the bumper to the other, and then near the tires. He moves near the driver's side door and then immediately sits and begins barking. The conservation officer opens the door and pulls out a chunk of raw deer meat in a Ziploc bag. Cruz again successfully demonstrated his recent training, and he wags his tail as he receives a playful pat on the head and some praise. This is Wild, a Utah Division of Wildlife Resources podcast. I'm your host, Faith Heaton Jolly, and this is Episode 3, Canines at Work. All right, so I have Matt Burgess here with me. He is one of our conservation officers with the Division of Wildlife Resources. Yeah, Matt, how long have you worked for the division?
So I've worked with the Division of Wildlife Resources for about a little more than 15 years.
Okay, so you're like the real deal. You've been doing this for a while.
I've been down it for a little while, yeah.
So and part of the reason that we wanted to kind of highlight you is a lot of people aren't even aware that the Division of Wildlife has conservation officers. So kind of give us an idea of what it is that you do and kind of what's like a normal, day in the life of a conservation officer.
Well, a conservation officer, we enforce all the wildlife laws of the state and all traffic and other criminal laws as well. But our main focus is wildlife laws. And that includes your basic checks and patrol for just general equipment issues or licenses. But some of the majority of our job, especially in the fall, into the wintertime, can consist of investigations. And those are when we get a lot of reports either through the UTIP hotline, dispatch, or just personal calls from the public that we know really well. Can turn things in that may be suspicious in some way. And so we'll conduct a complete investigation through that. And those investigations can take an entire day, and some of them can take several months, or we've even had some that'll go a couple of years. And there's a lot that entails those types of investigations. But between that, we're always making contacts with the public. We are very involved with the public in everything we do, non-law enforcement as well as law enforcement wise.
Oh, that's awesome. So, and do we get a lot of poaching cases here in Utah? Like, is that something that you're spending? That's kind of what you're spending the majority of your time doing, right?
Yes, and again, certain times of the year, there's always something that can happen all year round. But there's specific times in the year that those illegal take of protected wildlife happens at a greater amount of time. There's a higher rate of it, and like I said, the fall into the winter is those times.
And that's one thing I always want to emphasize to people is poaching and hunting are not the same thing, right? And so hunting is legal, you have a license, you're in the right place, right season, hunting the right species. Is there a particular species that we have that is, illegally hunted more frequently than another?
Well, it depends on your district and where you're at, because wildlife is in greater abundance in certain parts of the state than others. But I believe mule deer are probably the number one species that is killed illegally. And we're not talking, we have people that accidentally do things, and we have people that do things on purpose. And so there is a difference between that. And the public needs to know that if you have, just an accident has occurred, that you can contact us and we'll help work you through that. If you don't turn it in or anything like that, there's a chance that you could be facing some serious charges. You have to, face whatever it is that you've done and take responsibility. And our agency really works with the public on that. The guys that do it on purpose, and they either make money or they're doing it for prestigious antlers and all that, prestigious reasons, we usually go after them pretty vigorously, and there are a number of those guys that are out there.
Interesting. And I'm glad that you clarified that too, because I mean, accidents happen, and so this is a different kind of scenario. So let's say I'm somebody that purposely kills a giant elk, and then you guys come out, you investigate, you catch me. What is the kind of a typical consequence for that?
So normally, I mean, there's going to be, all elk are normally a third-degree felony status in the courts. As a felony, that's what you'd be charged with. Doesn't matter if it's a trophy bull or even a cow or a calf. It's a third-degree felony. So for an elk, I mean, you'd pay a restitution value. If you pay for a trophy bull, you're looking at $8,000, $10,000 in restitution, where it's a $750 violation, or money-wise, monetary-wise, for the cost of the animal. It's every animal has a value that's placed on it through the legislature. So you'd be looking at that, and then all the way, if you were charged successfully, then you could be suspended for up to 7 years of your hunting privileges in the state of Utah.
Okay, so usually pretty hefty fine. You could be suspended from hunting. Do you ever see any jail time for illegally killing wildlife in Utah?
Yeah, so there are times where I've seen, 6 months up to 2 years, depending on if that individual has done it before or is he, a habitual violator. And then so, of course, that stuff, if we've caught an individual in the past or he's had problems in the past, and he continues to do so, because just because we've suspended somebody of their hunting privileges doesn't mean that some of them stop doing what they're doing, because some people are very addicted to illegal take of wildlife. There's a lot of times there could be jail time or is jail time based on how bad or egregious the violation is, or how many times this particular individual has done it in the past. Usually a first-time offender may or may not see jail, but maybe for a week, a few days, to kind of help push the message through. So.
No, yeah, that's definitely good to know. Okay, so yeah, as we've established, poaching is not great. Don't do it. It's a very serious violation. You are breaking the law. And, it is a lot of hard work for our officers. And you guys just got some new canines to kind of help you with that effort. And actually, Matt and one of our other officers just finished a super intense, 9-week training back in Indiana. So kind of tell us what you learned in the training and kind of what our canines are going to be able to help you with on these poaching cases.
Okay, well, first we started off learning about the psychology of dogs and a little bit about how they think and how it's different from how humans and how we think, and even how we communicate. And there's a lot to that, but it all came to light as we began our first few weeks of tracking. And tracking was always at a really high pace. Normally we ran behind the dog, and we put a harness on them and a large lead, and that's how we communicate with the dog, and the dog communicates with us. We would do this for up to 8 hours a day. When an individual would run a track and hide, and those tracks could go from a few hundred yards up to a mile and a half. And they were sometimes on city streets and tracks and sidewalks. They were in the woods, along road edges, through the water, and then we did other things too, like article searches, where we look for guns, ammunition, and we could find keys, anything with human scent, and then any anomalies connected to those scents. And then the other main thing that we did was wildlife detection, so our dogs would be able to find specific species of wildlife. And we were trained there in Indiana on turkey, deer, and waterfowl. And then when we get back home, now we're teaching on fish and any other species that we think would be useful here in the state of Utah.
So, and it sounds like it was exhausting. Like you were telling us that you sometimes had a hard time keeping up with your dog on these hikes.
Yes, there were times where he, because he is a younger dog and he is very athletic, I was not anymore. I used to be, but I wasn't then. I'm a little better now. But yes, we did take some falls because we were running in mud, And while it was raining and snowing and stuff like that, we would always train through all the weather types. And so, yeah, we took some falls, twisted some ankles, did different things like that. But yeah, I did get in better shape over the next few weeks. When we went back for our second session and the third session, we continued to learn other new things, but tracking was always a part of the entire school. And so, yeah, I was able by force just to get into a little bit better shape than I had been for, maybe 5 or so years. So.
I was about to say, maybe that's what I need to do as like my fitness regime, just train a canine, and apparently it works wonders. So is this something, it sounds like it's going to be awesome in like helping you guys solve these cases faster. Like, is that something that's kind of the goal, is to get kind of a quicker resolution and be able to figure out what happened in a lot of these incidents?
Yeah, and on the tracking aspect of it, we train the dog for suspect apprehension, guys that may run from us or even other agencies, and we may need to do a search. But for the most part, people that are lost, whether it be children or hunters or people in the outdoors, so that we could maybe add some type of search value and finding and rescue value too. But the other types of things are finding evidence. Yeah, sometimes they may not even be able to find certain evidence out in the field because some of our crime scenes are quite large. So hopefully a dog will be able to find things that we may miss, or if we know there's stuff in a particular area, we may do a search pattern, but it may take a couple days, where a dog might hopefully do it within 15 minutes or less.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, that'll make a huge difference for you guys. So you along with helping our own agency do a lot of these, solve these poaching cases and things, you think you probably will be helping a lot of the other agencies as well?
Yes, and as they learn a little bit about what these dogs can do, all we can do is just try to offer those services and help out and do the best that we can with them. But we have, in my area, we have in Cache County, we have even trained with Logan City and Cache County Sheriff's Department, and I believe the other canine officers are very well familiar with Iron County and Enoch and some of those areas. We're hoping to spread that out if they need help or something in any way we can try.
That's awesome. And I feel like that will be a big resource for a lot of these smaller agencies that don't have a canine. So that's super cool. And I will tell all of our listeners, I have seen, I just got to kind of hang out with both of our canines, and they are super cute. What's been kind of your favorite part of having a canine partner so far?
Well, because I have worked for the agency for a while, and for the Department of Natural Resources for overall for close to 22 years, I was getting a little stale in my job, and this dog has somewhat rejuvenated me, not only in my motivation of work, but just a different change in the job. And that's probably been my most favorite thing. It's rewarding, it's unique and different, and it's very challenging too, because we have to be together every single day, whether you're on or off work, and I need to make sure that he's taken care of all the time. But it's just a new challenge and a new responsibility that's kind of rejuvenated me personally in work.
Yeah, I think that's super cool. And it's like, he's truly your man's best friend. He's with you 24/7. You're like tied at the hip kind of. And what would you say, since you have so much experience as a law enforcement officer with the Division of Wildlife Resources, what would you say overall has been your favorite part of working for DWR?
I personally like the investigations part of my job. I could do them all the time, and we deal with just in our investigations, we'll just deal with a specific amount of a small amount of people, maybe one or two, maybe even up to 10 different people in these particular cases individually. But the other good part of my job is just dealing with the public overall, even those guys that are not out there doing anything wrong, but just to go and visit with them, provide them information. And when we learn quite a bit about our districts and our job and where we need to be and when, just by being friends and developing positive relationships with the public. That's probably the other aspect that I've really enjoyed.
And I bet, yeah, you get to see a lot and you get to like talk to a lot of people, so that's fun. What would be, if you could send one message to all of our listeners, what is something that you would want them to know about kind of what you do and about the division?
I would probably say that whether you're a consumptive user or a non-consumptive user, be familiar with wildlife and with the great resource that we have here in this state. It's very well managed, and we have plenty of opportunities to enjoy wildlife in all different types of aspects. And the Division of Wildlife Resources works really hard to be able to provide that for the public. I think there is a majority or a percentage of the public that is very unaware of that resource and how they can enjoy it and where they can enjoy it. And so to research that and to be able to find those aspects and maybe add something like to your life a little bit more, and get outdoors quite a bit more. And then those of us that do know about it, make sure that we take care of it and that we do preserve it for the future, because that is a real thing. It's not just something that people say. It is the future, and where we're developing and technology and people in the way we are today, let's not let that resource get lost out there. Let's always have pride in it and respect for it and enjoy it.
Thank you so much. And, you guys do a lot to protect the wildlife here in the state of Utah. So keep up the good work, and thanks for all you guys do. As always, thanks for tuning in. And if you haven't already, we'd love if you could subscribe to the Wild Podcast. We have a new episode each month on the third Tuesday of the month. And so we hope that next month you can join us and hear some more wildlife stories.